Imagine for a moment you're standing in a room, surrounded by everything you thought you needed, yet there's a void, a space where love, respect, and value should be. The person you thought would see your worth isn't looking your way anymore. And that silence, that distance, it's deafening. But here's the question. What if this moment is not your weakness? What if it's the beginning of your most powerful transformation? Here's the thing people don't talk about enough. We are drawn to what's rare, to what we can't always have. When someone pulls away, it's not a signal that you're not enough. It's an invitation, a call to shift the focus, to recalibrate, not to them, but to you. Now, I know what you're thinking. If they don't see my value, what's left? What do I do? That's exactly what I'm here to show you. The answer is simpler than you think, but trust me, it's also the hardest thing you'll ever have to do. Because here's the truth. Value is never something you prove. Value is something you embody. And if you're feeling undervalued today, there might just be the universe giving you a nudge, saying it's time to remember the power you have inside. Stay with me, because the one thing I'm going to share with you today isn't about fixing someone out. It's about you reclaiming what's always been yours. The ability to stand tall regardless of anyone else's opinion. Let's dive into that, shall we? We often find ourselves in situations where the people we care about stop valuing us in the way we deserve. And when that happens, the first instinct is to scramble. We start questioning our worth. We wonder if we did something wrong. But here's the truth. Your value has never been tied to someone else's recognition of it. It's always been within you. I remember a time when I gave so much of my energy to someone who didn't reciprocate, hoping that if I just kept proving my worth, they'd finally notice. I kept telling myself, if I do more, if I try harder, if I give more of myself, they'll see me the way I want to be seen. But the harder I tried, the further they pulled away. It wasn't until I took a step back and reassessed my value that things started to shift. I realized that I wasn't the problem. I wasn't asking for too much. I was simply giving to someone who was no longer in a place to appreciate what I was offering. And that was the problem. Trusting your own value means understanding that your worth isn't something that can be lost, traded, or diminished by someone else's actions. Your value isn't dependent on their approval. When you truly believe in your own worth, you stop begging for validation. You stop chasing people who are already walking away. One of the most powerful things we can do is remember that we don't need to be seen by everyone to know that we matter. For instance, when you're at work and you know you've done a great job, but you don't get the recognition you deserve, don't shrink. Don't dim your light to fit into someone else's expectations. Let your work speak for itself. When you trust your value, your energy shifts. You stop chasing approval and start living authentically. And when you do that, the right people will start to notice. Not because you need them to, but because your worth is shining so brightly, it's impossible to ignore. We all know what it's like to chase someone who doesn't value us. The texts, the calls, the constant wondering, why aren't they responding? What can I do to make them see how much I care? But what if I told you that by chasing, you're only pushing them further away? The more you chase, the more you lose your sense of self, and the more they see you as someone who is available only when they decide to show up. I've been there. I remember a relationship where I was so fixated on trying to make it work, I lost sight of my own life. My days revolved around their schedule, their wants, their needs. And as much as I tried to be everything they needed, it was never enough. What I didn't realize at the time was that by chasing after them, I was robbing myself of the life I could have been living, one filled with passion, excitement, and fulfillment, independent of them. The truth is, when you stop chasing and start living, your life becomes magnetic. When you shift your focus from chasing someone's affection to nurturing your own growth, something incredible happens. You begin to attract people who appreciate you for exactly who you are. You become the person who isn't just waiting for love to find them, but someone who is so full of purpose and energy that love comes naturally. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how people who are deeply involved in their passions, their career, or their friends often seem to attract the most attention? It's not because they're trying to, it's because they're living their truth. They're living fully. And that's what makes them irresistible, not their need for someone else's validation, but their commitment to themselves and their life. Stop making someone else's actions the focal point of your life. Let go of the chase, and you'll realize that you're already living a life that's full, meaningful, and worthy of respect. And that, my friend, is when true connection happens. When someone doesn't value you anymore, it's easy to get caught up in the noise, the drama, the pleading, and the effort to prove your worth. But the truth is, the most powerful response you can have in that situation isn't to fight for their attention. It's to step back, quietly recalibrate, and reconnect with yourself. This is the most underrated move, yet the most profound one. I remember a time when I was emotionally drained from a situation where I was desperately trying to get someone to see my value. I was sending messages, making calls, hoping they'd finally realize how much I was giving. But then something clicked. Instead of pushing harder, I chose silence. I chose space. And in that silence, I started to recalibrate, not just my relationship with them, but with myself. That period of silence was the space I needed to reflect on my own worth and my life. It wasn't about making them miss me. It was about making myself realize that I had the power to redefine my value without their validation. Silent recalibration isn't just about stepping away from someone else. It's about stepping back into yourself, rediscovering who you are, and realigning with your goals, passions, and desires. Here's the thing, when we're constantly chasing someone's approval or desperately seeking their attention, we forget that the most important opinion of us is our own. In those quiet moments of recalibration, you reconnect with the person you were before they came into your life. You remember the strengths, the qualities, the dreams that made you who you are. The beauty of this silent recalibration is that it doesn't require anyone else's permission. You don't need them to understand or acknowledge your worth. You do that for yourself. And when you re-emerge from that silence, it's not about begging for their attention anymore. It's about presenting yourself as someone who knows their value, regardless of what anyone else thinks. The shift happens not in what you say, but in what you do next, living fully from a place of clarity and confidence. When someone doesn't value you anymore, the natural instinct is to double down on trying to win them back. You might think, if I just do this differently, if I change this about myself, maybe they'll see my worth. But what if, instead of focusing all your energy on winning them over, you turn that energy inward and focus on investing in yourself? I've been in situations where I poured all my time and energy into someone, hoping that if I gave enough, they'd finally see me for who I truly was. But what I eventually realized is that in doing so, I was neglecting the most important relationship, the one I had with myself. And when you don't prioritize your own growth, your own happiness, and your own development, you end up losing sight of the very things that make you magnetic in the first place. Investing in yourself isn't just about the superficial stuff like hitting the gym or getting a new outfit. It's about deep internal growth. It's about carving out time to understand who you are, what you truly want, and where your life is headed. This is where real power comes from. Think about it. When you're constantly evolving, whether it's learning new skills, exploring new passions, or taking care of your mental health, you naturally become more confident and self-assured. That confidence, that sense of fulfillment, is what draws people to you. I've seen people go from feeling lost and desperate to feeling empowered simply by shifting their focus. One friend of mine, for example, went through a difficult breakup. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, she decided to invest in herself. She picked up a new hobby, focused on her career, and started making time for self-care. And do you know what happened? She became a magnet for not just potential partners, but for new opportunities in her life. She was no longer waiting for validation. She was creating it for herself. When you invest in yourself, you become the kind of person who doesn't need anyone else to complete them. You create a life that's vibrant, fulfilling, and full of potential. And suddenly, people will be drawn to you, not because they have to be, but because they want to be. Sometimes we think the answer to someone not valuing us is to show up even more, to make ourselves available, to be there at every opportunity, hoping that our presence will eventually make them realize our worth. But here's the twist. Sometimes the key to creating value is not about being around more. It's about stepping back and letting your absence speak for itself. I know it sounds counterintuitive, We're so used to trying to be the solution, to fix things by constantly being present. But when we're always available, we risk becoming like background noise, something people can take for granted. True value is often realized in the moments we're not there. Think about the times when you've missed someone. What was it about their absence that made you long for their presence again? Was it because they were constantly around, or because they created a space in your life that you valued? This happened to me once when a friend of mine went on a short trip. At first, I didn't think much of it, but after a few days, I realized how much I appreciated her energy, her insights, and her presence in my life. Her absence actually made me value her more because I started noticing the gaps she filled, the joy she brought, and the way she added meaning to everyday moments. And when she returned, I was more excited than ever to spend time with her, not because she was constantly around, but because her presence was something special that I now deeply appreciated. This is the power of absence. It lets people reflect on what you bring to their lives. When you remove yourself, it gives space for them to miss you, for them to realize how much they value what you offer. It's like when a rare, beautiful flower blooms, its beauty stands out because it doesn't overwhelm you with constant presence. Instead, it reminds you of how precious it is when it's around. So, the next time someone doesn't value you, try stepping back. Let them see what it's like without you. And when they do realize your value, it will mean something far more profound than anything you could force. We often underestimate the true value of our time, don't we? We give it away freely to people who don't appreciate it, hoping that our efforts will eventually make them realize how much we care. But here's the thing, when someone doesn't value you anymore, the one thing you should start guarding fiercely is your time. Time is the one resource we can never get back, and once it's gone forever. I remember a period in my life when I was constantly giving my time to someone who was no longer invested in me. I thought that if I just showed up more, if I made myself more available, maybe they'd see my worth. But the truth is, I was only depleting myself. My time was being consumed, and for what? A situation that wasn't going to change unless I changed my approach. This is where you have to take control. When someone doesn't value your time, it's not just them wasting it, it's you letting it slip through your fingers. We all know the saying, time is money, but it goes beyond that. Time is energy, it's opportunity, it's growth. Every hour you spend with someone who doesn't value you is an hour you could be investing in yourself, in your passions, in things that will actually build you up. Think about it like this. If you were given a limited number of hours to live each day, would you spend them on someone who doesn't appreciate your presence? You wouldn't, because you'd see your time as the priceless resource it is. Instead of waiting around for someone to recognize your worth, put that time into creating a life that fills you up, into activities and relationships that reflect your value. The more you value your time, the more others will value it too. People respect those who respect themselves, and part of respecting yourself is knowing when to say, I can't give you my time because I'm giving it to myself. There's something truly liberating about the idea of outcome independence. Most of us at some point find ourselves desperately hoping for a specific outcome, especially in relationships. We want them to be the fairy tale. We want things to go exactly as we imagine them in our minds. But here's the truth. When you attach your happiness to a specific outcome, you're essentially setting yourself up for disappointment. I've been there. I remember a time when I had a strong connection with someone and I was so invested in the idea of how it should be, I imagined a future with this person and I let myself get wrapped up in this vision of what it would be like. But when things didn't unfold as I expected, I found myself crushed. I was so focused on the result, on the way I thought things should turn out, that I didn't see the beauty in what was happening right in front of me. When someone doesn't value you anymore, the worst thing you can do is cling to a specific outcome. Outcome independence is about releasing that need for control and trusting that whatever happens, you'll be okay. It's about loving fully, giving fully, but not needing the relationship, the person, or the situation to play out in a certain way for you to feel complete. It's like when you go on a trip. You may have a destination in mind, but if you're too focused on how you get there or what happens when you arrive, you miss the journey, you miss the unexpected detours, the conversations with strangers, the lessons along the way. Sometimes The most beautiful experiences come from letting go of rigid expectations and embracing the uncertainty of it all. In life, when we stop holding on to outcomes so tightly, we open ourselves up to the freedom of possibility. We make space for unexpected blessings and deeper connections. We allow ourselves to enjoy the present moment without worrying about whether it's leading to a particular future. So, let go. Trust that the right outcome will come. And in the meantime, give yourself the peace that comes with embracing what is, not what you think should be. There's something powerful about shifting your mindset from chasing love to attracting it. Think about the energy that comes from chasing something. It's desperate, it's anxious, and it feels like you're always one step behind. You might even feel like you're not quite enough unless you can get that person to notice you, to choose you, to love you. But the reality is, the more you chase, the more you push them away. I've seen this play out in my own life and in the lives of so many others. When we're desperate for someone's affection or validation, we start to lose sight of who we truly are. We begin to mold ourselves into what we think they want, leaving behind pieces of our own authenticity. And here's the kicker. When we do that, we're no longer ourselves. We become a version of us that is focused entirely on pleasing someone else. Now contrast that with attracting. Attraction isn't about chasing or manipulating, it's about embodying the person you are and allowing that energy to naturally draw others toward you. When you're living your life fully, when you're passionate about your own journey, and when you're comfortable in your own skin, that energy is magnetic. People will naturally be drawn to you because you're not trying to get them to see your worth. You already know your worth and you're showing it through the way you live. This doesn't mean you stop being kind or stop showing love or even stop expressing interest in others. It means you no longer rely on their responses to validate your worth. You've built a life that is so rich and full that someone's presence is a beautiful addition, not a necessity. I've known people who live this way and it's magnetic. They don't chase. They don't beg for affection. They are confident in who they are and their life is full of purpose, energy, and joy. That energy attracts the right people, the right opportunities, and the right experiences. You don't need to chase because when you live authentically, you will attract exactly what you deserve. Emotional maturity is one of the most powerful traits you can possess in any relationship, especially when someone stops valuing you. The more emotionally mature you are, the less you're swayed by fleeting emotions, and the more you can approach situations with clarity and understanding. Emotional maturity allows you to stay grounded, no matter how others behave or what's going on around you. When someone no longer values you, it's easy to react from a place of hurt, anger, or fear. It's natural to want to lash out or demand answers, but here's the thing. Emotional maturity gives you the strength to choose how you respond rather than letting your emotions dictate your actions. It allows you to maintain control of your own feelings and not let someone else's behavior trigger a reaction that could damage your sense of self. I've been in situations where I could have reacted out of frustration, where the impulse to prove my worth or demand someone's attention was strong. But over the years, I've learned that emotional maturity is about sitting with those feelings, understanding them, and then making a decision from a place of wisdom, not desperation. It's not about being cold or detached. It's about having the strength to stay composed, to reflect, and to respond with kindness, even when you're hurt. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are those are the people who handle adversity with grace, who don't take things personally, and who maintain their peace no matter the external circumstances. They know that how others treat them is a reflection of the other person, not their own worth. They understand that true power lies in their ability to remain calm and centered, regardless of how others act. Emotional maturity allows you to let go of the need for validation, to stop internalizing someone else's lack of value for you, and to move forward with integrity. It gives you the wisdom to realize that someone's inability to see your worth doesn't diminish it in any way. Your worth is constant, and emotional maturity ensures that you hold on to that truth. Your worth isn't defined by others. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that the way someone treats you or the way they see you determines your value. When someone stops valuing you, it can feel like you're losing something essential about yourself. But here's the truth. Your worth has always been yours to define. It's never been in the hands of anyone else. I've learned over the years that external validation is fleeting, and depending on others to affirm your value is like building your house on sand. When someone pulls away or stops treating you with the respect you deserve, it doesn't mean you've become any less worthy. It just means they aren't capable of recognizing or appreciating what you bring to the table. And that's their loss, not yours. For example, there was a time in my life when I invested a lot of energy into making sure people valued me the way I wanted them to. I used to take it personally when someone didn't recognize my efforts or didn't treat me the way I felt I deserved. But the moment I realized that my worth was never tied to their opinion, something shifted. I stopped seeking approval and started valuing myself for who I truly was. The difference in my life was undeniable. When you base your worth on someone else's opinion, you become a prisoner to their perception. But when you internalize the truth that your value is inherent, that it's not negotiable, your entire perspective shifts. You stop chasing after external affirmation and start living authentically. You become less afraid of rejection and more confident in your ability to move forward, knowing that no one can take away your intrinsic worth. So the next time someone stops valuing you, remember this: your value isn't up for negotiation. It's constant, unwavering, and entirely in your hands. The right people will see it, respect it, and cherish it. Everyone else doesn't matter. In closing, I want to remind you that the most powerful thing you can do when someone no longer values you is to stop looking outside of yourself for validation. Instead, turn inward and recognize the strength, the beauty, and the worth that already exists within you. You don't need anyone's permission to live a full, vibrant life. Your value is not determined by others. It's defined by you. The moment you stop chasing and start living authentically, you will attract the right people and experiences into your life. Take this journey of self-discovery and self-worth seriously. Trust your own value, invest in yourself, and set boundaries that protect your energy. Don't let someone else's actions or opinions dictate how you see yourself. When you embrace your true worth and live from a place of independence, you will see that the people who are meant for you will naturally be drawn to your energy. So, I encourage you to take a step back today, reflect on your worth, recalibrate your energy, and start living fully for you. If you do this, you'll see the shift you've been waiting for. The world will start to respond to the confident, grounded, and unstoppable version of you that is ready to thrive.